Thank you so much, John. Thank you to the Bay Planning Coalition for having me back again to give a federal legislative report. And also, I want to congratulate two friends of mine, Zach Wasserman and also John Briscoe, on their awards this afternoon. Congratulations. So I'm approaching my first 500 days in office, and I wanted to talk a little bit this year, not as much about the economic policies we're working on in Washington. I've spent a great deal talking about that. Today, I'm mindful of something that Senator Feinstein told me right when I was elected, and sat down and had lunch with her. And she told me, she said, "Eric, you will talk a lot to different groups about the important economic policies of building and growing our middle class." And she said that those are very, very important. But she said, never forget that the reason government was created, that the reason people still to this day greatly need us, is so that they are safe in their homes, safe in their country, and safe in their economic transactions. Now, I was a prosecutor before going to Congress, and certainly public safety is important. But when she told me that, it made me start to appreciate more the role I play on the Committee on Homeland Security. And it also, I think, illustrates that Homeland security, national security, is directly linked to economic security. And there's no doubt that the Bay Area is an economic engine. With the Port of Oakland, the Oakland Airport, the San Jose Airport, and the San Francisco Airport, thousands of jobs exist around those airports and ports. And right now, on the Committee of Homeland Security, we continue to look at ways that we can, I think, meet what our goal is, which is keeping the country safe, but also being stewards of the taxpayers' money and not invading privacy or overly burdening travelers and commerce. And a few issues that we've been working on lately that I think will be of interest to you. Most recently, we have continued to fund what's called the Transit Security Grant Program. And most recently, we have supported BART's application for a transit security grant to better protect the Trans-Bay Tube. We know that BART delivers 400,000 passengers each and every week on its system, and that if the Trans-Bay Tube were to be shut down, as we saw during the BART strike, it can greatly affect our local economy. And so vulnerabilities were identified, and BART is in the final round of hardening and protecting that tube. But right now, there's a proposal from the administration to take all of the Homeland Security grants, whether they protect our ports, whether they protect airports or transportation security, and consolidate them all into one program. And I have opposed this because when you have individual varying grants, I think it does allow you to identify specific needs, go after those grant dollars, especially in this self-help era where our local agencies are struggling to find money anywhere they can find them. And if you consolidate grants, I'm afraid that that will affect programs like the Transit Security Grant Program, as well as the Urban Areas Security Initiative, also known as UASI. And our Alameda County Sheriff's Office has benefited from UASI in what they call Urban Shield. They conduct exercises every year in Alameda County's Urban Shield. Many people who are here today, many of your agencies, including the Port of Oakland and others, have participated in this. And this is an anti-terrorism training event that prepares us for what the likely scenarios are. And they receive urban area security grants every year to conduct those exercises. And so I will continue to oppose efforts to consolidate this funding because we know that it is benefiting our Bay Area economy and improving the ease and movement of goods and services throughout our area. Another area of homeland security that I have an interest in and have been working on is aviation security. We saw with the San Jose airport breach just a few weeks ago that a young, determined person was able to breach the airport security fence and was able to climb over the fence, board an airliner, and fly to Hawaii. And we're grateful that he is okay. We're grateful that he survived, but it has exposed vulnerabilities at our airports. This is the fifth major breach over the last 5 years. And I'm afraid that if we have continued breaches, that people will lose confidence in airport security and that we are only a breach away from a catastrophe that could again bring down our economy. And we are reminded of what happened the last time there were serious airport breaches and what it did and how it wreaked havoc on our economy. So today at the Alameda County Sheriff's Office in Dublin, we held a technology demonstration to show that there are different technologies we believe that can better protect our critical infrastructure, whether they're airports or PG&E, who recently suffered, as you know, the Metcalf substation attack. And so we're trying to take these vulnerabilities and challenge the tech community to be force multipliers where humans cannot protect against these vast perimeters. And again, I submit to you that our national security is directly linked to economic security. Now, in the Congress, we will continue through the appropriations process this coming summer to fund these important programs, which will fund the Transit Security Grant Program, will fund many of our aviation and port security needs. But one issue that you're, I'm sure, well aware of that I think goes to the heart of what supports the Bay Area economy and innovation economy that you'll hear more and more about in the coming weeks is passing comprehensive immigration reform. And I think when you look at innovation, it takes a three-legged stool to have innovation. You need to have access to capital, you need to have a brain trust of individuals that can support the ideas and create innovation, and you need a risk-taking culture. Passing comprehensive immigration reform ensures that you have a risk-taking culture. And I think it makes sense. Immigrants come to our country leaving their family and livelihoods behind. It's a great risk to leave all of that behind and come here. And studies have shown that 40% of the largest companies in America were founded by immigrants or the children of immigrants. And so there's an economic benefit to having a risk-taking individual come to our country because it's very likely they're going to create jobs. I want to give you an example. A couple months ago, I visited a business owner in Livermore. Came to our country in 1986 from India. 1986, he started driving trucks. For 6 years, he drove trucks up and down I-5. And about a few years in, he realized he could make more money and spend more time with his family if he insured the trucks rather than drive the trucks. So he saved every penny he could, and 6 years after driving trucks, he saved up enough to get a 500 square foot insurance office in Oakland. Each month he was behind on his rent, and finally at the end of the 6-month lease, the landlord told him, he said, "Look, you're not going to make it. There's no need to extend this lease. I'll give you one more month, but that's all I can do for you." So the immigrant from India who came here and spent all of his time on the road, saved all of his money, doubled down, and looked anywhere he could for his first client. And he found it right before his final month's rent was due. Then he found his second client and his third client. And 22 years later, his member of Congress visited him at his 60,000 square foot office with 60 employees who he signs the front of the paycheck for. And he promised that by 2015, he's going to have 100 employees and 100,000 square feet. But if we were to look back in 1986, we would have thought that this individual was a bad bet for America, that they would only take away our resources, that they would probably give nothing back in return. But his story is multiplied across our country. There are hundreds of thousands of people who have come to our country just like him and have created jobs behind them, who sign the front of the paycheck. So immigration reform is not only what we have always been as a country, opening our borders to immigrants, to have diversity and embracing why people come here, but it also has economic benefits. And it means more than just having high-skilled workers. I think it also means taking the 12 million undocumented individuals in our country and giving them a certain pathway and roadmap to citizenship. And we are so close to doing that in the Congress. It is passed in the United States Senate. It awaits passage in the House of Representatives. You need 218 votes to pass anything in the House of Representatives. We have over 218 members who would pass this, but it is up to the Speaker of the House of Representatives to do this. And I promise, it's only a matter of time. As soon as that vote is put on the House floor, we will pass comprehensive immigration reform. Anyone who is opposing this is pushing a boulder up a mountain. They are fighting against gravity because it will pass. Again, it's only a matter of time, and it will greatly, greatly help and assist the Bay Area economy. And so I look forward to continuing to lead that fight. I know it's so important to so many of the companies here, whether it's high-skilled workers that will benefit or the 12 million undocumented individuals who live in shadows and fear of removal. And so that battle will be on the horizon in the next few months in the Congress, and I look forward to continuing to update you as to how it affects our local Bay Area economy. Finally, I will say the tone in Washington got pretty ugly last October. And when I was here last year, I told you about a group that I had helped to create called the United Solutions Caucus. It started with 4 members of the freshman class, 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats. We grew to 30 members. During the shutdown, our group met every other day, sometimes in a Republican's office, sometimes in a Democrat's office. And we weren't naive. We knew we weren't going to reopen government ourselves. But we did know that if we didn't meet at that dark hour, regardless of whether we were going to solve the problem, that we might as well just absolve the group. So we did. We met every other day. And when the Senate passed their proposal to reopen government and not default on our debt, we endorsed that plan as a caucus. And for many members in the group, especially on the other side, it took a lot of persuasion and really putting pressure on them to do it. But they did, and we went on the floor together as a caucus and voted together to reopen government and not default on our debt. Since that's happened, we've passed a 2-year budget with nearly 350 votes, the largest and longest budget passed in the last 10 years in the United States Congress. Our group still meets. We had just 2 weeks ago, one of our members is Joe Kennedy from Massachusetts, and another member is a very, very conservative member from Kansas. And I remember just after both of them spoke at this meeting thinking, boy, if we can get the Kennedy from Massachusetts and the conservative Kansan in the same room talking to each other, there is still some hope for our country to find consensus and reverse the gridlock. So I'm committed to continuing to do that. My mom and dad are both Republicans, and they remind me every day that I'm the first Democrat they ever voted for, and there's no guarantee that they'll do it again. So I know I'll have to answer to them when I see them every Sunday night at our family dinner. So I'm committed to continuing to work with anyone who's willing to work with me, and I look forward to continuing to engage and meet with BPC on the issues that matter to you. With that, I'd like to open it up to any questions if anyone has questions on the congressional agenda or anything here at home. Thank you. Any questions from the group?
You don't need a car.
Yes. The question is, will the Speaker support WRDA? And I believe, yes, I believe that we will see progress on WRDA this year. And that is because I think when you look at in the context of politically what we are going to have to make tough decisions on, I think that one is going to be the easier one, and they are looking for as many wins as possible right now. So without speaking for him, I think that there is the pressure, and I know members are hearing it from the folks who are affected at home. You have a very strong advocate in John Coleman, but both sides of the aisle, WRDA and other, there are other areas that I think have broad consensus. So I'm hopeful that he will, but that does not seem to be what is holding us back right now. I think it's just being crowded out by other issues. Yes.
They say in the midterm elections that the Senate may flip, and your view, what do you think is going to happen with the presidential election in 2014?
The question is about will the Senate flip in 2014? Of course, as you know, the Republicans control the House, the Democrats control the Senate, and of course, we have a Democratic president in the White House. Traditionally, voters have what is called the 6-year itch. So in a 2-term presidency, usually the midterm election right before the president terms out, the party that is not the president's usually does pretty well in the midterm elections. Think back to 2006. That's when the Democrats took the House and Speaker Pelosi ascended to become the Speaker. However, if you look back in 1998, it was about a draw between both sides. But what I'm fearful of is that if the Republicans take back the House, if the Republicans take the Senate, I'm afraid that would have very dire consequences for comprehensive immigration reform. It was hard enough to get that bill passed with almost 70 votes in the Senate that if you had a Republican-controlled House and Senate, I think it would be some time before. So I hope for that issue's sake, which is one of my top priorities, that the Democrats can hold on and we can actually find consensus in this narrowing window of time that we have to pass comprehensive immigration reform. Yeah. Well, thank you all again. Thank you, John.